Good evening. Welcome to Politically Incorrect, Friday edition. Here's who we have for you tonight. Rachael, Leigh, Cook. Good for you. You have a big new movie coming out, Scorched. You're just back from what? Just back from Cannes, plugging it. It's with Woody Harrelson and Alicia Silverstone.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us one more time.
Thank you.
Little Richard, the creator, the emancipator, the constipator, the alligator. I can't believe it says you're retiring at the end of the year.
After this year.
That's ridiculous.
This is my last
I am
year.
going to convince you tonight not to retire. You must continue.
Ooh-wee.
Lauren Kitchens, you're the co-host of the LA Daily Morning Radio Show, Ted and Lauren in the Morning on FM 95.9. And Bryan, Cranston, you are back one more time. Thank you so much. You steal the show every week on Malcolm in the Middle. Give a hand to our panel, if you would. Okay, well, you know, folks, this week something truly frightening happened in the war on terrorism, and I don't just mean Dionne Warwick getting through airport security. No, I'm talking about the revelation that there are American citizens born and raised here in our own country who had joined up with and been fighting for Osama bin Laden. Native sons like Jose Padilla, a converted Muslim of Puerto Rican descent who plotted against this country and planned to dirty bomb our capital, all in a desperate attempt to win back Madonna. Now, please, I could make jokes about Hispanic terrorists all night long. For one thing, their car bombs never have insurance. But, you know, that would just make the problem worse, because if every ethnic group with legitimate beef about their treatment in America converted to radical Islam, we would be in deep Shiite. I mean, just consider the tons of crap that has been dumped upon blacks in America, and I don't just mean R. Kelly's girlfriends. I'm talking about enslavement, segregation, and having to watch Halle Berry make out with Billy Bob Thornton. And it doesn't end there. Japanese Americans were rounded up and thrown into internment camps during World War II. Although I'm not that concerned about them steering planes into buildings, we've all seen them drive. And
It's not funny.
And what about the Indians, who are still essentially living in internment camps in America? Not so much the reservations, the casinos. Hey, if anyone could justify attacking Manhattan, it'd have to be the people who had it stolen from them for $24 in trinkets. But on the eve of this Flag Day 2002, I would just like to say to all our minorities, especially in those places that may foster hate for America, like prisons, ghettos, and Berkeley, yes, America may have sucked for you in many ways, but it still sucks better than any other place in the world. And if you think the man here is bad, try being anything but a man over there. Yes, we're far from perfect, but they're worse. Worse when it comes to tolerance, worse when it comes to opportunity, worse when it comes to aroma. And as we all know, the only proper way to get back at the man is, and always will be, date his daughter. Okay, so speaking of terrorism and security, I was wondering why, can anybody tell me why, the current head of the FBI is in such hot water when he was only on the job 1 week before September 11th. He was getting his voicemail set up. And the last guy, Louis Freeh, among the things that happened on his watch, Waco, Ruby Ridge, the Olympic bombing, Richard Jewell, Eric Rudolph, Wen-Ho Lee. And by the way, when we talked about him about 2 years ago, it was because Louis Freeh had a baby, his wife had a baby while he was the head of the FBI, took 12 weeks maternity leave. And everyone argued with me on the panel, oh, Bill, you and your feminization of America, you're so crazy. Am I really that crazy? Should the head of the FBI be taking 12 weeks maternity leave off?
Well, people don't realize... One man is not a job.
What happened?
One man is not a job. He has 1 million people working under him.
But wait, there was no checks and balances, though, and people didn't know that.
that there was no one to cover. And that's the problem.
He's the head of the FBI. You're telling me that the head of the, when you have a job...
Well, they didn't even have freaking email. Do you know what I'm saying? They weren't communicating at all.
Well, maybe because he was asking his wife if her nipples were sore all day.
And were they?
Was his wife not at home? Or was
she? Was at home.
But that's the law. In 1993, they passed the Family and Medical Leave Act, which said you could take 12 weeks off for the birth of a newborn, adoption.
See, I don't think that that's such a bad thing that Louis Freeh took a paternity leave, but I think it's probably slightly insensitive that he named his newborn daughter Ruby Ridge Free. I mean, that's probably, that to me is more exaggerated. You know,
Seriously.
Ollie Oxen was still available. He could have taken that name.
Well, typically people would not say there was a problem with that, but as a country, we didn't realize there was no communication. If we had known that, we would say, you take 3 days and come back. But we didn't know. We were naive. We didn't realize there was no communication at all between any of them. That's why these things happen.
Well, those are two different issues.
People that were spies for 15 years
Paternity
and we
leave
didn't know.
and lack of communication are two different issues. I mean, I agree. Looking in the industrial countries of Europe, they have 6 to 8 weeks of paid vacation every single year. Now, we as a country, we work very hard. We have a very good work ethic. But I think we're lacking in probably some of the other social areas that we do need to spend more time with our families. And I think an increased paid vacation should happen.
But he's the top dog. And to
even,
leave for, 3 months.
We're talking about the head of the FBI. What about the president? What if he had a baby? Could he take 12 weeks off?
Absolutely not.
Okay, even if the mother and father work, I'd like to see those 12 weeks, say, allocated evenly between the two of them. You know, they could take their days off at the same time, or maybe...
The concept of having paternity leave is not a bad one. It just needs to be worked out.
Well, it depends on the position as well. Yeah. He's the head of the FBI. Maybe we say more.
What? What's wrong?
Everyone is insane. That's what's wrong.
Oh, come on.
When you have a job like Little Richard, help me out on this. If you are the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation,
I think he may be in line.
and you're wearing that suit, something's very wrong. Now, if you're head of the FBI, or I mentioned the presidency. I saw when Al Gore was running for president, he was on Oprah. Of course, they all had to go to Oprah and bow down to get the soccer mom vote. And she asked him, you know, if you're the president of the United States and there's a family problem, what happens? He said, everything blows off my schedule. And right there I said, I am not voting for you, you pussy.
You know, I wonder...
There's a balance. You want them to be there for the family, but you have to take into consideration what their position is. So if there's a balance, not 12 weeks.
If you have a job like head of the FBI or the president of the United States, put down the teething ring and get to the office. Plus, he's the man. Hello?
Yeah,
what does he have to do with it after the baby is born?
But see, that's spoken like
He didn't have nothing to do with it before it was born. He didn't have nothing to do with it.
But
I read about him. He had nothing to do with it.
Oh, he's saying that's not his baby.
No. Shut up.
Okay.
What he did was, he taking too long. My mother had 12 children. And that's just too long. If he's the head of something and they're going to need him, he didn't have no baby. He's not sick. It's nothing wrong with him. He wasn't doing anything when he was in there, and he's sure ain't going to do nothing out of there. And so what he's taking a leave for all that time.
Right.
And he's needed in the office, and he's at...
And you find out later all these things fell between the cracks, and then you really wonder.
He went to the crap?
Cracks.
If your mom can do it, so can I.
went to the crap.
All right, we're going to take a commercial and then... Okay, listen, before we go on, I'd want to mention to all you websiters out there, I'm on the web now, you know, this is a whole new thing. I'll answer your questions Monday. I've already seen a lot of them. 90% of the questions are, Bill, why are you suddenly on the web? I got fired. This way we can communicate.
He needs a job.
Okay, so you mentioned 12 kids. You come from a family of 12.
Yeah, my mother has 12 children.
Okay. But in those days, when your mother did, they probably didn't have a method of birth control.
No.
They just went at it, and whatever happened.
They just went at it and got it.
Until they're clear.
You're ugly.
After they got it, they had it.
Okay, but there's a sad story in the news. I don't want to dwell because it is sad, but there's a family in Virginia. They had 13 kids, and one of them died because the father forgot about him in the car.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's horrible, but you know what? I think the bigger crime is that this country celebrates spawning in a way that's just not cute anymore. Every day they give out a Mother's Day award. It's always some lady who had 19 kids. They pat her on the back. They should sedate her entire legs together. This is not... Oh, no. No? You think in this day and age it's cute anymore to have 13 kids?
No, but back in that day, if they did that, my mom would have got tied up, too. No. No, take your rope back home.
Oh, my.
But, you know, you can have kids and don't forget them. My mama had 12, and she didn't forget any of us. And, you know, it's just like we all had to eat together every day. And if I didn't eat my greens, I couldn't get no cake. Mm-hmm. I had to go out with them to milk the cow. Amen. And the cow would kick everybody and put his feet up and all in the milk. And you still had to strain the milk and still drink it. And you knew what was in there before they strained it. It was terrible.
So you grew up on a farm?
Next door.
Next door.
I didn't know where that would lead, but I knew he would have a punchline.
Farm next door.
The thing that's frustrating about this situation is that's the baby. That's the baby that you're feeding and you're changing their diapers. And if you're missing the baby, I just can't
Yeah, but if you have
ascertain
13
that.
kids...
Well, this is not Home Alone. I mean, that's crazy. Oh, we forgot a kid, and it was 7 hours.
Yeah, but 13 kids.
Yeah, if you can't keep track of them, you need to stop having them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry.
I mean,
But even if you
And
could...
the mom was out of town.
Okay.
Right, she was on
Well,
her
like I
way.
said,
done,
let's just
but-
concentrate on 13 kids.
Well,
Now,
lucky 13.
the Catholics are meeting about their big scandal. To me, this is the other Catholic crime.
The
you know-
quiver is full.
Yeah, I mean, and this family was Catholic. Not that people who aren't Catholic couldn't have 13 kids, but it is sort of a Catholic thing to do.
Right.
To have 13 kids and be, see how virile I am? I pumped out 13 little squalling.
I mean, first of all, this is a very tragic story, and this is the worst
Let's
nightmare.
keep getting back to that. Yes, let's keep getting back to the tragic part
But
of
it is, I mean, you brought it. It's the worst nightmare a parent could have. That your neglect brought on the death of your child. That is
Well, did he
horrendous.
think the older children were watching out after the little ones? Because that happens frequently. Well, the older kids have got it taken care of. So
What kind of car was
No,
it?
he left them in the car.
Studebaker.
See, what I can't understand, you need to know what kind of car it was. Why was that baby sitting at? Back in those days, those cars, you could see everything when you got out. From the front to the back. Of course, I rode in the car. They had the rumble seats and the rumming board all on the side. And my mama had 13 children, and if they had left one, it may have been me.
Wait a
You
minute.
have another one just in this half hour. You had 12 just a second ago.
I could have got left.
Your mama had
starting to
12
wonder.
She had 12.
Yeah.
She had 12, but it makes me think about 13. I had to raise all of them. I had to
Starting to poke holes in his
I had to put their diapers on. I had to feed them. I had to put the milk in the bottle because my dad had to go to work.
Of the 17 siblings that you
My dad
had,
had to work. My dad had to go to work. My dad had a hard job. He was a bootlegger. My dad. And so he had to go around the corner because he had to sell his whiskey. He sold what they call...
got 24 kids. He's got to make a living somehow.
What they call the stump whiskey. You ever heard of stump whiskey?
Yeah.
No.
Some people call it white lightning.
Yeah.
But white people call it black thunder. That's what happened.
The first thing, I mean, as far as the punishment.
Wait,
The
though, a
moral
lot
of
of
that
people
story
think...
is you draw the line at 12.
Well, my mama had 12.
We've got something important to say.
Yes, 12
Well, listen.
My mama had 12, and she fed all 12 of them. But to leave the child in the car, that's horrible.
It is
People
horrible.
think
Now,
We're
is it a
trying to say
crime?
he should
That's
get
the
off.
thing.
It is a crime.
Is it a
He can't
crime?
get off.
No, he can't.
Hey, it's a
Don't let
crime
them
that
off.
you're
Ain't no
retiring.
problem.
That's what's
There'll be
a crime.
precedent.
Yeah, huh?
It's a crime you're
They
retiring.
should, first thing they should do.
Oh, yeah, I got to retire. I'm
You
tired,
see, now look how funny you just were in a very serious subject. These people took it right into the sad gutter, and you came in here and saved the day. You cannot retire. To hear another word about retiring from
Bill, I'll be 70 years. I'll be 70 years old at this year. At the end of the year, I'll be 70.
Wow.
I've been in show business 60 years now.
That explains
and I just said that I had death in my family not long ago, and it just made me want to. There's no one in my family on the male side have never lived to see 70 or 69. And I said, well, Lord, I said, well, you've blessed me to get this far. Through the tutti frutti time and the long tall salad period, and the smaller time. I said, so let me get out while I can and rest a little bit, so I have a little time to stand around and look, you know, because everybody's dying. Everybody I know dying in this thing, you know.
And everybody wants to see 69.
Yeah,
We'll take a break. All right, before we get off track again and before the week dribbles to an end, I wanted to ask this question because it bothered me that they appointed, was it Bryan Williams who got the job at NBC?
NBC,
okay.
yeah.
And lots of women like Greta Van Facelift said, what? She said, why, she wasn't the only one, said, why isn't it, you know, every time they appoint her. And I just want to say, I think it's more the women, just same as why isn't there a woman president, like women don't vote, you know. Maybe it's the women who, even more than the men, want the man to read the news. So why does the man get the blame for what the women, when sometimes the women want a man to do a certain job?
Yeah, that's right. Just ask Little Richard's mom. There is, I mean, I believe there probably still is that ceiling for women to achieve those goals and those anchor positions. That's just like there isn't any woman in a position to take over for Leno or Letterman or any of those key roles.
It's what we're used to. We're a creature of habit. We like those men being in those roles, and we don't like to change.
But women too. I'm saying, there's no doubt there is a ceiling.
We can change.
We can what?
We can make a change. If you get people, if you get the American public used to a female nightly news anchor,
we like
they'll
what we
get
have.
used to it.
We're used to.
And then we could certainly be sympathetic.
Or Walter Cronkite and Roger Mudd. That's what we grew up watching.
But anytime a woman doesn't get a job, they try to make it sound like it's a big conspiracy by corporate America. And that is not corporate America's conspiracy. Their conspiracy is cheating and lying so they can have more money they never know what to do with.
That does make it wrong.
What?
They didn't even look at women for the position. Don't you think that they should be given a fair shake at it?
You can certainly have sympathy for the women trying to reach up and break down that ceiling, if they could just arch their backs a little when they're doing it.
No, I mean, you've said people like what they have. They're satisfied with what we have now. That doesn't mean that they're going to get used to and be satisfied or more than satisfied with what we can give them, which could be a very capable woman in that position.
I agree. I have no problem with a woman in that position. Or
there we go again.
I've heard people say that we get preoccupied with who the woman is more than who the man is. With the women, we know all about their personal lives, their boyfriends, their husbands, their children. With the man, it's just their life. We don't know a lot about Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather because we just want the news. We don't want all the fluff. And
but isn't it true that men don't care about those personal things? I don't care about...
They're private.
Some men do.
Care about the personal life.
I've seen some of them. In fact, I know some of them. I think that what is happening, I think everybody got used to a man being in that position. They got used to hear this big, heavy voice. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, my name is Tom Shampapa.
He was good.
And they ain't used to nobody saying, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Filafall. Yeah. And so they're not used to that. They're used to a man with this heavy direction. But there are a lot of women that I believe that are qualified and capable and able to do these things.
No,
Thank you,
So they got to be
Leigh.
given that.
All right, we'll take a break on that. All right, Little Richard, I have 22 seconds here to convince you once more to stay in show business. You were born to do this.
Yes.
To leave this, even if you don't want to sing anymore.
Yes.
Look what a comedian you are.
Oh, I wish I was.
Let's raise the collection.